Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. We've got an alumni calling out the lack of diversity on The Bachelor, specifically saying, let's put an end to this. If Zach was black or Asian, do you guys actually think he would have been cast on the show? My quick answer to that is, of course not. No, that wouldn't have happened. And why do I say that? Because historically we look at the show and there's only been a few leads of color. Now, with that said, that doesn't mean I endorse or approve of those decisions, but we're going to jump into it. It's dicey waters. Follow me right now on Instagram at DNeals. Also, I got my podcast right here, Bachelor Rush Hour, top 10 entertainment news every single workday, every afternoon. I've got content for you. In fact, I'm going to be giving you guys a little bit extra content today. A lot of people I've wanted to see the footage of our sold-out stand-up show this past Wednesday. We have not shared that. That's going to remain private. But I've got a clip here of the Q&A I did with Katie Thurston. I'm going to share that, just a clip on the podcast today, the free podcast, Bachelor Rush Hour. Here's just the first couple seconds.
All right, here's how it's going to work. I've got a few questions, but if there's anyone in the audience who wants to start, fire away at Katie with your questions. Anybody? Right here, there is.
So what happened was the audience just shot questions at us, and we answered them as quick as possible. So I'm going to share just a clip of that on today's Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast. Okay, let's get back into the story. We have Lekka. She was on this season of The Bachelor. She licked Zach's ears and got sent home. She wanted to give a floral sort of a headdress to Zach. It was a Tamil tradition. She's I think the first person of the Tamil community to ever have been represented on the show, and of course was let go night one. She said, okay, let's put an end to this discussion. If Zach was black or Asian, y'all really still believe he would have been chosen to be the Bachelor this season? And of course, my answer is no. No, he wouldn't have been. We know there's been high quality contestants that haven't gotten chosen. Only one lead, obviously, per season gets chosen, and then a lot of times what the show has done in the past. And again, this isn't me saying this is right, but what the show has done in the past, psychopathic corporation, doesn't care about other people's emotions, has done the thing where they just put in a token person here, a token person there, without actually letting the love story be told in a way that's, maybe non-white presenting, okay? So the show has kind of, and we know they did this this past season when the way they botched the coverage of the blackface scandal that existed. It was thought that they were going to cover it on their live after show, and it turns out they only addressed it on the podcast, which means they pandered to one side, which is the audience that is watching live, and then they pandered to another side. They're just double dipping in every direction they can, and they've done that with casting. They've said, okay, no, yeah, we'll have more diversity on the show, but not represented through the lead, which is the star of the show. It's almost like having nothing but white stars of a sitcom, and then you just have a token representation of diversity, which of course, if that's a side character, you're never going to get the full empathy that you would as you would telling someone's love story from the eyes of like the center of attention, in this case Zach. And I think the audience can perfectly handle more diversity. I don't see this being a problem, although I don't think the show cares to just be white. Does it mean they're racist if they're psychopathic? That's an honest question. And I say psychopathic because they don't feel emotion. They're not a beating human. They're not a neighbor of yours. They're just a show out to get their ratings. Chris Harrison has defended that in the past by saying the show is about a specific thing. It's about some mystique. That's why all the characters have perfect bodies. He said these types of things, right? So I don't think they care one way or another. I think they're going to do whatever they can to continue to boost ratings. Of course, not exactly working out well for them. So Lekka posted this TikTok, which has little to do with the previous statement, but let's just have a quick listen. And it's not playing. Okay, so you know what? It's basically just a TikTok. Let's just refresh this here. It's a TikTok of someone that she reshared, just talking about the attraction level of the contestants on the show.
But I have a really main Bachelor Nation opinion that I really want to share, because I feel like some people are going to agree and some people are just going to call me shallow, but I don't care. This is literally the most shallow show ever. Sure. So why can't I also be shallow? So we have queens like this, truly gorgeous, successful, everything. Literally looks like this. I wish I could pull off yellow like her. She is fabulous. Like, icon. Love the hair. Literally so beautiful. Love her. Beautiful. A literal queen. Another queen. Yet another queen. And I'm just talking about looks. I'm literally not watching this season. I refuse to. And then a queen times 10. so gorgeous. But then the producers give us this mediocre white man that I could go find at my own college. I could find 10 of him.
Now, and I don't disagree that Zach could be easily represented at any college. Yes, he's a normal-looking white guy, 6'5" though, which is very rare. I'm sure only 1% of men are 6'5". That's very tall. I would say that. Yeah, 5'11" here. But either way, now if we are going to judge on looks, which I think is, first of all, like sort of a flawed way to look at all this. But if we are going to judge on looks, I don't know if the women she just listed were out of Zach's league in the real world. In the real world, there's plenty of women like that date normal-looking guys, and there's good-looking guys that might date normal. Like, it's not just about looks, right? I don't know. But either way, I don't think he's not some Quasimodo is my point. And I'm not here to defend him because personality-wise, I don't know if him and I could ever be caught dead in the same elevator. I'd be like, oh my gosh. You know what I mean? I think I would try to tell jokes and he would just look at me like, are you serious? I don't think we would share the same sense of humor, which is no knock on him. That's a personality type. But yeah, I don't think these girls are necessarily out of his league. It depends what they want. Maybe they want a stable, quiet introvert. It's all personality driven. We don't really know. But Lecca goes on to continue. She said, and I encourage these pages to question why over Rodney, Avon, who made it past Zach, or others before the season aired. So I totally understand the question. The question is like, why did they choose Zach? And again, I think it has something to do, and I am not approving of this. I think it has something to do with them not wanting to ruffle feathers of a fan base that thinks the world's getting too woke. Do I attribute wokeness to diversity on a TV show? No. I think representation in our country, which is a melting pot, should exist across the board. And it's almost like in a corporation. You can hire 100 junior assistants that are diverse, but if the CEO and if all the people making the decisions are white, then you don't have that representation across the board. And we see that with the leads. So the show will have to have a non-white lead soon. I mean, you can't just do it once every 10 seasons. There has to be some sort of, and again, this is where people go, oh, what are you going to try to, that's not what the show is. Well, the audience will decide what the show is. And if they truly don't want the trajectory that it's heading, they'll make it known by boycotting or just quitting watching the show or choosing another show. That's just how capitalism works. But we'll have to see how it all plays out. I personally don't know who they're going to choose for the next Bachelorette. We have heard from Reality Steve that they've already made that decision. I personally thought if she wanted it, Susie would be contender number one for it. Of course, that's because she's one of the top from previous seasons, not including this season. This season, who it could be, no idea, because I don't want to get into spoilers of who actually wins this, and I don't even know who wins this. Now, when we talk about, and this is where we take a hard left turn, don't click away, please. When we talk about diversity, a lot of it comes down to building empathy, and we are okay with diversity when we live and interact with people that don't look like us. That's where empathy kicks in. It's pretty much well known that we empathize with people that look like us way before we empathize with people that don't. It's just a tribal thing. That's the baseline. We have to fight past that. We have to learn to empathize with people and relate to people that might have different skin colors, might speak a different language, might be of a different socioeconomic level, class system, political divide. We have to empathize with people all across the board because we all live in this country and we're all neighbors to a great extent. Now, that doesn't exactly happen, and there are some other issues that are going on in the news I wanted to share. This is happening right now as we speak. You guys might know Ben Platt. He's a fantastic actor, Tony Award winning. He's in this new production of Parade. Parade producers condemn neo-Nazi protest at show about anti-Semitism. So this is the show. This show it just started on Broadway. It's a retelling of the story of the lynching of Leo Frank, a Jewish businessman in Georgia. He was accused of horrendous crimes. He was later exonerated and then lynched, and I think they actually pardoned him after he died. It's a terrible and tragic story of anti-Semitism, and there's this weird ramping up. I say weird, but it's tragic ramping up of anti-Semitism across the country. Now, I almost veer on the side of not reporting this because it's really just a few people that were protesting here. But if you see here, the National Socialist Movement, a neo-Nazi hate group, is protesting outside of the Broadway revival of Parade, stating that Leo Frank, the subject of the musical, was a pedophile. And here they are shouting at people in line. Just a quick clip.
Maybe. The truth about the ADL. You want to learn about the truth about that you're going to see tonight? You're paying $300 to go fucking worship a pedophile. You might as well.
These guys wouldn't last a second living in New York City. They for sure don't. New York City, I mean, maybe they do, but New York City is a melting pot of diversity, from the gay rights movement that took place in New York to so many other, groups of people that have faced police brutality and overcome so many segregation and so much. New York, it's the quintessential city where you can rub elbows with all types of people, including Muslims that have had to overcome living in New York City after 9/11. And I'm not saying New York City's perfect. We've had Islamophobia, we've had homophobia, we've had so many different issues presented, like I said, police brutality, but New York City is a place where at the end of the day, on the subway, you make eye contact with someone who looks different than you. You hold the door for somebody who looks different than you, and we need more of that in the world. If we could take everybody and shake them up and live in different cities, and it happens in cities because that's the place where you take public transportation, that's the place where we really get to realize that we're all just the same genetic codes in different presenting bodies here. And I think if we have more of the representation on The Bachelor and more of diversity from a level that's not just a night one contestant that leaves the show, but actual true love stories and not the botching of those love stories, I think we'd have less of issues like this where people peddle in conspiracies and lies, and it's all disproven. But you know, the journalists love to pick these types of stories up because it's sadly very triggering to talk about, and that's the world of media we live in right now. So just to jump back to Bachelor here, I know it's a tough conversation to talk about, but you know, it does make you wonder, like, can we move past some of the stigmas exist? And one of the stigmas on The Bachelor, at least by the producers who run the show, is that a non-white lead will kill the ratings. And I argue, how are you going to have if you hired Zach Shallcross, you know what I mean? I think we can do with Rodney. Don't you think he would absolutely crush it? The whole cast loved him. If the whole cast of Bachelor in Paradise cried when Rodney left because they loved him so much, I think the audience would fall in love with him as well. So she continued to post, okay, well, does that man stand a chance of becoming the lead? The men being Avon or Rodney. And she responded, Lekka, the one person of color who was lead in 20 plus years of the show, The Bachelor, that being Matt James, history, conveniently only in the midst of the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. He was an ex-Division I athlete, started his own charity helping kids in need that he was very active in, and had to have an absent father and arguably have a big presence and personality from the get-go to even get considered to be The Bachelor. Yeah, I mean, the show totally botched his season, and he was sort of like their version of a pity casting. You hate to call it that, but that's what they did. It was one of the first times in recent years that they had Matt James jump the line. They pulled him out of Claire Crowley's season and just threw him right up as The Bachelor. Why did they do that? Because of the Black Lives Matter movement. That was you can't argue for any other reason than that's why they made him. They said, look, see, no, we support Black lives, and then they just put a contestant of color up on the show. And it's pandering at best. It's late, and it should have happened years ago. But now where do we go from there? How do we retell a story of a non-white lead in a way that isn't, completely botched? And can you tell that story without making race the center of the story? You see it a lot on Netflix where people will tell these stories and they don't make race the center part. They're just humans trying to find love. I think we need to get back to that. I know you guys feel the same way. We are humans trying to find love, and that's it at the end of the day. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment, and we'll have Bachelor Rush Hour. You're going to have to listen to today's episode. We'll have some juicy content on there. Bachelor Rush Hour, link in the comment section, or just search Bachelor Rush Hour wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll talk to you later.